We are Group 14. We're presenting our group project on PayPal. Our group members are Julia, Zoe, Isabel, Daniel, and Carolina. Yeah. PayPal is an electronic commerce company that facilitates payments between parties through online transfers. In December of 1998, PayPal was founded, although its original name was Confinity. On February 2002, PayPal became public and its stocks rose by 50%. Not until April 2006 did PayPal finally create a new payment platform. Next slide. PayPal's mission is, we believe that now is the time to reimagine money to democratize financial services so that managing and moving money is right for all citizens, not just the affluent.
PayPal is a company that operates globally, and because we live in a world that is constantly changing, there is always going to be internal and external factors that affect the decision making and performance of a company. To analyze these changes, we just PESTLE. These are macroeconomics factors such as political, economic, social, technology, environmental, and legal components. Because PayPal operates in different countries like Europe, a change in the currency of a foreign country, of the euro, can affect the bottom line of PayPal. This is an example of a political externality. And Isabel will tell us more about the economic side.
The first E in PESTLE stands for economic, as Carolina said. One example of an economic influence is how customers are losing money when they use PayPal's built-in exchange rate. For example, when they go from euros to the US dollar, PayPal simply states an exchange rate and it's not always correct or up to date. Customers would have to research the exchange rates themselves to double check that they are getting the exchange rate. So they could be losing money.
S in PESTLE stands for social. One social factor that impacts the culture of the organization is PayPal's endorsement to one of the nation's largest LGBTQ organizations in order to create a more inclusive work environment.
The T in PESTLE stands for technological. A new method to transfer, send, and request money can now be used through Alexa. When using the device, customers can now simply tell Alexa what they want to do with their account, whether they want to simply check their funds or send, receive, request money. And Alexa can do it without them having to lift a finger. All they have to do is say, "Hey, Alexa."
The second E in PESTLE is environmental, and coming from the business environmental standpoint, PayPal has come up with a tool called the Sandbox, which is a shielded space where the user can initiate and watch their apps. And when a user initiates a transaction through a Sandbox account, PayPal creates a mock transaction that behaves like a live transaction, and this allows users to test and debug their apps without referencing any PayPal users or live accounts.
Okay, so one legal example would be the cancellation of the North Carolina expansion, and this was due to discrimination laws that were targeted towards the LGBTQ community. And PayPal took a lot of flack from this, especially from conservatives at the time. However, they stood by the decision, and it was a great decision to make. Next slide, please. Okay, so PayPal has made some really great changes and implemented some really cool systems over the years to take steps towards sustainability. And one of those examples would be the Employee Environmental Challenge, which was implemented in 2019. And it was a challenge that would monitor the water, waste, and power consumption of its employees and would be tallied at the end of each period for these challenges. And then they would award the employee with the lowest carbon footprint. So I thought that was really interesting and a really great way for them to work towards a more sustainable environment within the company. PayPal's helped to donate more than 9.6 billion in 2018 alone They've also had a little under 30,000 volunteer hours in 2018 as well through their program PayPal Give. Now, one of the greatest things that I found and bits of information that I found was the fact that PayPal is exclusively a digital service. So therefore, it has a very low carbon footprint to begin with, as it's not producing anything physical per se. Next slide, please. Okay, so from an ethical standpoint, PayPal has definitely ran into some ethical issues in the past, both good and bad. One of the biggest issues I saw was reimbursement issues, and this was because, in the form of customers running into fraudulent activity and actually losing money, in which case they were either responded to and not the greatest response time, or their reimbursement was put aside altogether. Now, this is mainly because PayPal, although it deals in currency, is not exactly considered a bank. Therefore, they're not held to the same standards, and they aren't exactly obligated to pay you back in certain scenarios. This is where ethics kind of comes in. Where do they draw the line on where they can cover you? I wanted to tie that in with security issues and cyber attacks as well. There actually has been an instance in Germany where there was a security issue and a lot of people lost money out of their accounts. And again, that ties into the ethics. Where does PayPal as a company draw the line on when it should pay its customers back? And for the most part, I've seen a lot of issues in this area, and customer service has taken a hit because of this, and they've lost a lot of customers. Now, one good example will be the South Carolina law restriction, which we touched upon a little bit above. And I wanted to reiterate on this point because it paints a really good picture on where the company stands ethically as far as the people in its company and in its communities. Presumably, they had a lot to lose by not creating this work site. And again, they stood by their guns and they made this decision to not go into this state, regardless of the flack and pushback. And I think it was a great decision on their part. Next slide, please, Zoe.
So some of the strategic plans that PayPal is using moving forward is making a push into physical stores. They want a mobile-based contactless point of scale for different merchants. This is very useful during the COVID-19 pandemic because most stores and other businesses only offer card-only payments, so no cash. So having a PayPal account in physical stores will help many different customers. Also, Venmo users can cash checks since PayPal and Venmo are working together. They're connected companies under one branch, and this advances the digital wallet. And this is a fast and secure way of using PayPal to cash checks for different users.
I'll talk about the competitors. The financial sector is a highly competitive. PayPal does not only have to compete with banks and financial institutions, they also compete with Samsung Pay, Zelle, Google Pay, and Apple Pay. Apple Pay is the biggest competitor. Apple Pay has a competitive advantage over PayPal because they control their hardware and software. However, PayPal is the #1 platform used for digital payment in the United States. According to next slide, please. Sorry. Now, according to Harvard professor Michael Porter, in order to understand PayPal's overall attractiveness and potential profitability, there are 5 industry forces to be aware of. And Isabel will tell us more about that.
So as Carolina just said, the biggest competitors for PayPal are Apple Pay and Google Pay.
The threats of entrant by reducing costs and partnering with businesses such as retailers and restaurants. PayPal can heavily invest in marketing its platform through these businesses and other different places.
The bargaining power of suppliers. PayPal must have to have a strong supply chain unable to keep the bargaining power of suppliers low.
So as for the substitute products of service, PayPal is offering a system they call Buy Now, Pay Later. and it's sort of credit card like. And also they have a thing called Pay in 4, where it's different installments, where if someone doesn't have the money to pay it now, they can pay it in a few weeks, or just and it's different installments. And also the ability to buy and sell cryptocurrencies is something that this business offers that many other businesses do not.
Okay, so bargaining power of the buyers is something that we've seen change over the years. Obviously, back in the early 2000s, the buyers may not have necessarily had the greatest bargaining power. And this is because PayPal was almost primarily the only service available at the time. Now we're starting to see that change recently, as there are more competitors in this service, and we're starting to see customers' expectations and experiences change as well. They're moving towards a freedom of choice regarding the services they already utilize. So example, if they want to use a bank that they've possibly been using before, now those banks are potentially in this service environment, and it's a new option for them. So that's going to be a driving force for PayPal moving forward, to have in the back of their mind and keep track of things. Next slide, please.
So this is the SWOT analysis, and we use this to analyze the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the company. So starting off with the strengths, PayPal is global scale with over 305 million active accounts in more than 200 countries around the world. It offers a faster and easier way to make recurring payments, and the strong tech background of the company helps to ensure the latest security and technology systems for the users.
Some weaknesses that PayPal has are its high fees on cards, authorizations, and transactions, and international cards. That can drive away potential newcomers. The brand should lower its prices for users, or for incoming users. There's also a lot of controversy surrounding PayPal withholding funds by freezing accounts of some users without notifying them. And another weakness would be that the whole transaction system of transferring funds or receiving funds is it's slow to do that, and that just is dependent on internet connection. Another major weakness is cyber attacks.
So moving on to the different opportunities that PayPal can have is the use of digital cryptocurrency like Bitcoins. Also moving towards a cashless economy, PayPal is in the right place for this, especially this has been exemplified during the COVID-19 pandemic. Like I said earlier, many businesses and stores are card only. So using PayPal in physical stores will really help out its users. And also they could maximize their customer base by targeting more business to consumer companies.
Some threats to PayPal are hackers, because the company operates on such a large scale and it's in more than 200 countries. It puts itself at greater security risk. PayPal also has strong competitors like Isabel mentioned before, such as Google Wallet, which poses a greater threat to the company. And online banks now have services for transferring funds, which are similar to PayPal. So that poses a great threat as far as PayPal's advantages.
So we've come up with different recommendations for the future for PayPal, starting off with the time efficiency that it takes to get the user's money from the app to the bank. It takes about a week or so, and different users have complained about this. So if the company can come up with a more time efficient way of getting the money from the app to the bank, more customers, I feel like, would be happier with that.
Another recommendation for the future could be that because of the absence of internet and smartphones, usage is a technological negative externality. PayPal should partner with communication networks from developing countries to work in a more efficient and practical way for people to access technology.
Okay, so another area or a recommendation I would have for the company would be its customer service. As a personal user of the service, I've ran into my fair share of problems in the past, and I know a lot of my peers have as well. This has been evident in our research also, and I think it's a huge area that they need to improve upon, especially if they want to remain competitive in the future.
My recommendation for PayPal would be that they could greatly benefit from allowing employees time off to focus on innovation. PayPal could really benefit from organizing and dedicating a day to innovation in order to create new product every year.
As stated earlier, a weakness of PayPal is having consumer accounts frozen with no notification. When this occurs, customers are unable to check their funds, transfer money, send, receive money due to their accounts being frozen. And we recommend that PayPal at least alerts their customers when this occurs and give them a reason as to why it's happening. Also, the company should try to fix any glitches in the system that are causing these freezes to happen when they shouldn't be. So PayPal is always innovating and trying to stay up to date with the latest technology. It started out as Confinity, as Julia said earlier. It was a security mobile software company, and they believed that they would be more successful in a different industry. So they went into the mobile wallet industry. A few new advancements have been made, as in the pay in 4 method and touch-free payments. Pay in 4, like Zoe said, is a payment installment plan where the customer can pay part of the fee at checkout or wherever they are buying their groceries, whatever items they are buying, and then they can pay it in 2-week increments. And that takes about 6 weeks to completely pay off the entire fee. And touch-free payments involves scanning a QR code at grocery stores. So all you have to do is take your phone out, scan the QR code rather than taking a card out or paying with cash. And this has been very beneficial during the pandemic due to people wanting to be more sanitary, wanting as little contact as possible. And in an interview with CEO Dan Schulman, he said, "We have only barely even seen the tip of the iceberg so far." So PayPal has tons of room to innovate and grow.
So as for globalization of the company, they have their own environmental mission statement, which is we have a responsibility to properly manage our environmental footprint and an opportunity to advance environmental progress. Their main supply chain is worldwide technology, and they have also identified reductions to landfill and solid waste and water conservation as areas of importance to mitigate any negative impact that their global operations have on the environment. Employees at PayPal have also uplifted one another by adding and suggesting different recycling and recycling tips. And the company has also implemented different recycling and food composting programs for the employees to go to. Two of their partners are the Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance and the World Resources Institute, which are both of those companies are very big on helping out the environment.
Okay, so PayPal has made great strides in becoming one of the leading services in online payment, and this is evident in the longevity of the company over the course of the last 20 years or so. However, PayPal must remain extremely competitive as dozens of new up-and-coming services have entered the market, and they also need to capitalize on the circumstances we're dealing with currently globally with the pandemic. They have a lot of opportunities to capitalize on in many areas, like we spoke about. Isabel actually mentioned the payless and cashless transactions and whatnot. It's imperative to the company's success that it recognizes its shortcomings that we've listed above. We've seen a lot of really great innovation from them over the years. We've also seen a few areas of opportunity where the company can improve upon. I think with the right allocation of resources, PayPal can do this and remain successful in the future.